Madam President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Namibia is honored to join you virtually in Geneva to present our final report for the third cycle review under the UPR mechanism. On behalf of the Namibian delegation, I would like to express profound appreciation to the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, specifically the UPR Secretariat, for their kind and efficient assistance in finalizing Namibia's UPR outcome report. I also wish to express our gratitude to the distinguished members of the Troika, Fiji, Venezuela, and the Sudan for their hard work in this process. Madam President, as strong proponents of the UPR mechanism, we value the broad participation of fellow states and other stakeholders during the third cycle review. For Namibia, the UPR mechanism presents an opportunity for self-review and introspection. We believe that the UPR mechanism indeed plays a preventative role in ensuring that the human rights of all persons are promoted, fulfilled, and protected. Madam President, Namibia received 283 recommendations during the 38th session of the UPR Working Group in May 2021. We are pleased to report that after careful consideration, 229 recommendations have been accepted. 54 recommendations have been noted because they require extensive consultation to effect constitutional, policy, or legislative reforms. Some of the issues, when carefully considered, could necessitate constitutional amendments. As a relatively young democratic country, Namibia has only had 3 constitutional amendments in its 31 years of independence. True to the nature of constitutional democracy, constitutional amendments require robust, widespread public consultations, including consultations with all political parties. Outstanding matters that require further consultation may therefore take time to realize. We have provided responses and reactions to some of the recommendations that are noted. Madam President, Namibia firmly believes that all human rights matter because they are indivisible, interdependent, and interrelated. The Namibian Constitution is anchored on rights to life, the inviolability of human dignity, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness. The recommendations to ratify the Convention on the Protection of Migrant Workers and their families is duly noted. The Labour Act 11 of 2007 applies to all persons employed in Namibia, and the legislative framework around the protection of employees does not exclude migrant workers. In an effort to improve the management of labour migration flows, the government has operationalized a 5-year national labour migration policy and its corresponding implementation plan. I therefore assure you that migrant workers are not neglected or abused within the Namibian domestic setup. We also have taken note of the recommendation to ratify the Convention on Enforced Disappearances. And while Namibia takes time to consult on possible ratification of the Convention, we continue to cooperate and engage with the UN Working Group on Enforced or Involuntary Disappearances. We provide responses to questions of the working group to ensure we provide support for any further action. Madam President, the principle of equality and non-discrimination are important twin objectives of our nascent constitutional democracy. In particular, government is committed to fulfilling its human rights obligations to promote and protect the right to non-discrimination for all Namibians. I therefore reiterate that homosexuality is not illegal in Namibia, nor does the government sanction or condone persecution of the LGBTI community. Earlier this year, I received a report from the Law Reform and Development Commission on the abolishment of the common law offences of sodomy and unnatural sexual offences, with an accompanying draft bill proposing repealing the legislative and common law provisions which relate to sodomy and unnatural sexual offences. The report will be presented to Parliament for discussion and consideration. This is an important step for Namibia and demonstrates government's commitment to explore effective mechanisms in clarifying its position on LGBTQI rights despite existing normative and religious barriers. In the meantime, the government continues to implement the general right to non-discrimination in the promotion and protection of human rights for all persons in Namibia. Namibia has further noted the recommendations to legalize abortion. This is another matter that is receiving consideration by Parliament after it was introduced by the Honourable Deputy Minister of Health and Social Services. Parliamentary discussions on abortion will advance the necessary dialogue in the country and inform government on the necessary action to take. Namibia regulates abortion through the Abortion and Sterilization Act 2 of 1975, which provides for circumstances when women and girls can access safe and legal abortions. In the event that patients present with complications as a result of illegal and unsafe abortions, medical assistance and treatment is duly rendered indiscriminately. Namibia continues to be heavily burdened by escalating cases of violence against women and children, including domestic violence, gender-based and sexual violence. We are now implementing the prioritized National Plan of Action on Gender-Based Violence 2019 to 2023, accompanied by its robust monitoring and evaluation framework, which plan seeks to put survivors first by making sure that the services they receive are empathetic and responsive. We have also made legislative reforms to the Combating of Domestic Violence Act 4 of 2003 and the Combating of Rape Act 8 of 2000 to protect victims of domestic and sexual violence. Madam President, as a semi-arid country, Namibia bears the brunt of the harsh impacts of climate change with alternating drought and floods in different parts of the country. The most vulnerable members of the community are most impacted by the consequences of climate change, especially marginalized communities and older persons living in rural areas. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and other crises on the global economy has been painfully felt by the Namibian government and its people as we battled the twin objects of protecting public health while preserving livelihoods. Adapting implementation plans to ensure that the laws, policies, treaty obligations, and recommendations are effectively implemented remains a challenge to all states, and more for the developing countries like Namibia in times of crisis. We must, however, continue to place human rights at the center of all our actions and demonstrate resilience against these challenges. Madam President, I believe that as a country and as a government, we continue to do our best in ensuring that human rights of all persons are promoted, fulfilled, and protected. Fully aware that we have a lot of work to do to live up to our own aspirations as envisaged in our preamble for the benefit of all Namibians. We remain committed to this process and will continue to hold open and constructive dialogues with the Namibian people and all relevant stakeholders, acting in good faith for the betterment of the well-being of our people, ensuring that no one is left behind or excluded from prosperity. Madam President, on behalf of the Namibian delegation, we thank you for your stellar leadership in steering our discussions here today. We also wish to thank all the delegations that took the time to participate during our review and also during this adoption session today. Your recommendations are indeed valuable and will enrich our efforts of promoting and protecting the human rights of all persons in Namibia. The various issues raised through the recommendations will continue to receive due consideration through necessary policy, legal, and institutional reforms with a clear and robust implementation plan as enunciated in our Harambee Prosperity Plans and National Development Plans. Allow me to once again express our appreciation to Fiji, Venezuela, and Sudan for their work as members of the Troika. We further express our gratitude to the Secretariat for their guidance and support. Finally, Madam President, I reaffirm Namibia's strong support for this distinct and effective mechanism, which was designed to prompt, support, expand the promotion, fulfillment, and protection of human rights on the ground. As a country and as a government, we are painfully aware of the need to avoid human rights violations at all costs, as such violations have the potential of causing tomorrow's conflicts. Thank you, Madam President.